Ridiculous questions.
Meticulously debated. This is Tell Me I'm Wrong.
Well, I was happy just last night. I've been losing sight, sighting all the falling fights. What is this if this ain't right? Back again, the monster rights. Losing life until that night. Life never let him lie. Light is mine, my past is right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tell Me I'm Wrong. I'm your moderator, debater, something this week, Josh Ballard.
I'm also here, and my name is Ryan.
My name is Joe, and I'm a podcaster.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, is this not a meeting?
Oh, no, this is
the show.
Yeah, this is the show, bud.
You guys fooled me again.
But you're not wrong. You can call yourself a podcaster because we have officially hit 50 episodes.
50 episodes
50.
And exactly 1 year.
50 episodes. You could almost say we did a year's worth of podcasting. Calendar ways we did.
Now there
Episodes.
there were a few weeks we missed, but we're not going to talk about those, including last week, which unfortunately I was struck by a malady that left me unable to perform. I was on the PUP list because my stomach was trying to kill me.
Y'all were both sick, and I was currently at my house digging a 4-foot by 4-foot grave, basically. So
Was that
I was
for
pretty
me
busy
or Ryan?
myself? Yeah, I thought it for the longest time. I thought it was possibly for me.
Dig your own grave.
That's what I felt like. I finished it on Sunday, and my follow was over here, and I said, you know, one thing, I am sure not cut out to be a grave digger.
I have to say, a year in, and we have 50 episodes. You're welcome, listeners. 50 episodes in 1 year. We are
That's a
putting
lot.
in the work. We are grinding. So I need everybody to really appreciate the fact that we have really stuck with this consistently, even though it started out and we were thinking we'd probably get to 12. We've made it to 50, and I feel like I actually went back through, just jumping right in. I went back through our episodes in preparation for this, and they're all bangers. I'm proud of every
single one. No misses.
No misses.
All hits.
I mean, we're batting
All
1,000.
killer, no filler.
Great album.
No, but that is exactly what we're going to be talking about on this episode. It's
Whose album is that?
That is Sum 41.
Yes, thank you. Great. Canadian finest.
So that is actually what we're going to be talking about on this episode is the fact
Canadian's
that
finest.
they are not all bangers. And how hard it is to be a indie podcaster.
That should be an episode. What is the best thing Canada's known for?
Is Joe listening? Does Joe not
I
getting
think
my
Joe's
audio?
doing an entirely different
Joe's
podcast.
on his own show. This is Joe's new show where he just decides to
I heard
pick
you all.
topics.
I heard you all. Which ones aren't bangers? But it did just dawn on me. I mean, listeners, that is the hardest part for our podcast, and that is coming up with topics to discuss. Because it seems like this stuff would be easy, but for every podcast episode we do, there's probably 5 that I've suggested that Ryan and Josh have both refused to do, and it's not because they're weird like what Josh wants to do. They just generally it's just because Josh doesn't want to do it.
It's just because they're weird in the wrong way.
Well, that says you. But
Exactly.
when we have ideas, we have to say them out loud, because if we don't, we've proven we'll forget them. Even if we text them to each other, we generally forget them.
We do.
Yeah, the group chat is where ideas go to die. We'll get to that later. However, I want to circle back to what Ryan said, because this needs to be underscored, highlighted, however we need to call it out. But the sacrifice we have made to bring entertainment to so many, the effort is gargantuan. This is a well-oiled machine at this point. We're running better than the vaccine clinics. We're just churning stuff out. We're just absolutely killing it. And so I think in order to reward us for our hard work, everybody should have to share the show with 50 of their friends.
And then also send us 10 ideas for episodes.
Send us itemized Excel documents with the 50 friends you shared it with, so we can see if they correspond with any other listeners. And then your 10 documents, we'll build a database. Well, I'll be honest. I didn't think we'd make it this far. I've enjoyed the show. I've enjoyed just us hanging out. We started this during the pandemic, honestly, but they are right. This wasn't an easy thing for us to do at times. We all work full-time jobs. This is not our job. We do this on the side just for fun. And there has been times where it's been tough, but overall, I would say I've thoroughly enjoyed all parts of it this year, except for the fact we couldn't record together a lot.
In case it hasn't become clear, this episode is kind of a retrospective. We haven't really done this. We did it a little bit in the New Year's episode, which we're going to get to.
I was gonna say we did technically do it, but we'll talk about that later.
But we just want to let you guys know, we're already, 5 minutes in, but let you guys know this is kind of what this episode's going to be. We just wanted to really just talk about what the last year has meant to us. We'll get a little bit serious maybe, but we'll talk about some favorite episodes. We have a few questions from listeners and maybe some goals for the future and what it's going to look like. So
also, I'd like to point out that I had some dental work done today, and the left side of my face is currently numb. So if you hear me slurring speech or I say I'm drooling, I'm not drunk this time. I just didn't brush my teeth enough.
Ryan and I canceled the podcast last week, recording wise, because we were both sick. And Joe's here just being an Iron Man, fighting through the pain, fighting through the numbness. And
well, there's no pain because I can't feel anything. But other than that,
well, it's the pain of just knowing you sound like a, Daffy Duck.
It generally doesn't take much for me to suggest canceling the podcast because, like Joe said, we have full-time jobs. So there are definitely times when, just talking about the show, there are definitely times when I sit down and I'm not looking forward to it. And maybe I haven't researched as much as I should, or maybe it's been too much research. But honestly, as soon as we start recording, we get into the flow and I always feel great about it. So just laying it out on the table.
There's also been times where we can do 2 next week, right? Let's just do 2 next week. We've had a few of those.
Famous last words.
Well, as Ryan said, we wanted to talk about the podcast, do a little retrospective, answer some questions that people sent in to us and some that we came up with ourselves. And so I want to dive straight into that by talking about first, what are some ideas that have been shot down for the podcast. We have covered crazy things. We have eaten Pokemon. We have talked about athletes giving the sex talk. We have done any number of ludicrous topics that led to Ryan talking about horses in a very odd manner. And so what are some of the ideas that have been shot down prior to making it to the air? Do you all have one?
Yes, I've got one.
I was going to say Joe should have several because we shoot Joe down all the time.
Yeah, listeners, I want feedback from our listeners on this one. I've asked for this episode for probably 3 months now, and I keep getting told that it's too sensitive and yada yada yada, and it's a bunch of bull crap. But my idea for an episode is, at your funeral, what song would be completely inappropriate to play but would sum up your personality perfectly? So the one, I don't know if I'll do this, but the one that came to mind for me was Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba. I get knocked down, but I get up again. That is my life, you all.
That'd be an unsettling song to play at a funeral, Joe. Do you realize
that's exactly what it is? Because I would relish in that awkwardness if it was me and I was looking down from heaven going, looking at my family all like, I would love that.
See, I'm already uncomfortable, and this just confirms the fact that this was not going to be a good episode. And
but okay, let's talk about the hypocrisy
this isn't going to show. This isn't going to show.
No,
we're not going to turn this into you defending all the ideas that you shot down.
We did an episode about cereal mascots having sex.
It was. I want to remind everybody, it was not about them having sex. It was about which one was the secret freak. That could mean anything. Reading.
No, it doesn't. You're
reading
Josh,
too much
you
into
argued
it.
that point. You made your point very clear on that one. What it meant. All I'm saying is, it's a little hypocritical for y'all to say, no, we're not doing this. It's uncomfortable. But we can talk about which mascot would like to get his freak on the best wearing.
As we always say, Joe, it's about finding the right uncomfortable. Yeah, it has to be uncomfortable for a purpose.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I specifically brought this one up to piggyback off of what Joe said, because we did talk about cereal mascots getting freaky. However, an episode I pitched in that we were, hours away from recording that got shot down was my personal favorite, which was a Christmas episode, which was make the ultimate Christmas sex playlist. And
I was in on this too. It
was me. I shot that one down. And honestly, that one's probably going to come back around because since I feel like we've leaned a little bit more into that side of ourselves since that I shot that one down. But that one may come back, so we may have to edit this part out.
There was another one that I recommended when I did the Death song too, but I can't remember what it was now. But it was a good one too, and you both were like, I don't know, we may hurt someone's feelings. That was the guy from Third Rock from the Sun who pushes his lips together. I forget his name.
Are you talking about French Stewart?
Yeah, that's it. That's who you all are. When I recommend an episode and you say no.
What a reference.
Bunch of French Stewarts.
For every episode we record, we probably shoot down at least, 2 or 3?
Yeah, well, see, most of it is because they're bad.
Right.
No, yeah, we have shot down some ones where we just like, well, I don't know if we can make this funny, But
there are lots of reasons. I mean, one, Joe is just mentioning the ones that he feels personally attacked about, but there's also ones that are boring, or maybe there's not enough material, or probably the most.
We have a visitor.
It appears we have somebody joining us. And she does not seem happy about it. This is my reaction to this podcast, too.
Sloan.
No, I want
I know.
Yeah.
Let's put a Band-Aid on. She cut her finger on accident, guys. I'm so sorry for this, listeners, but I do have a 3-year-old daughter, and I'm a dad first. Okay. All right. Hey, you want to say hi to everybody? Talk to the microphone.
I don't want.
Okay. Well, let's go. You got to put your Band-Aid on. I had hoped her debut on the podcast would go smoother than that. So I apologize if it didn't. But to springboard off what we said earlier, we are full-time.
We have lives.
Husbands and dads and whatever. So if you don't
I'm
like
a full-time
that,
nothing, to be fair.
you can honestly.
But your job is more than full-time. So
if you don't like that we have lives, you honestly go screw. I don't care because my daughter's awesome.
Not go screw yourself. Just go screw. Just generally, just whatever you want.
She's walked in this room multiple times, but she's never made a sound. Like she knows, like when she comes in here, I'm talking on the microphone. She has to be quiet, but she knows also, like I'm here, dude. This is the forbidden fruit.
It is for everybody. Okay, so we've talked about ones that have been shot down, but of the ones that actually made it to air, or whatever you call podcasting, I suppose it's not airwaves, the megabytes worth of downloads. What do you all think was our best episode?
Are you talking about our best episode or our favorite episode?
I was going to say, because I feel like there's a difference.
Okay, tell me your best and tell me your favorite. How about that?
What I feel like we had at one point a consensus on what our favorite one was. I feel like it was Run for the Red Noses was when we really felt like we had planned it really well. It had a good debate and all that stuff when we debated
and a great ending that took
the reindeer, the reindeer
many hours to edit and sound good.
Yeah, and so a lot of that credit goes to Josh. So if we're talking about like our best episode that I would like present to people, it's probably that one. But the episode that always holds a place in my heart is Tickle Me Josh. I feel like that was the first time on the show when we really were just doing anything we could to make each other laugh. And we all just sort of started laughing for several minutes, and some of that made it in the show. So some of it was edited out because it was
unlistenable, just the cackling.
Listen, I'm a loud laugher. Everyone knows this. So if you want to hear my favorite episode, go check out Tickle Me Josh. I believe it's episode 11. It is. We talk about some Sesame Street conspiracies, and those will probably come back around at some point.
Boy, we peaked early.
We did.
I like that one. My favorite is Pay Me Like Your Terminator.
You do love that one. You did a great job on that one as well.
That one was just so much fun, and the songs we picked were just ridiculous. I really enjoyed that one. I'm looking through our list right now because we had a list of the names, and some of them I was like, what do we talk about on the next?
There were several when I was going through where I wrote the name, and then I also wrote the topic because I was like, this name doesn't tell anything.
Now, my personal, so for a little bit of background, I edit our episodes. I've edited, I'm pretty sure every single episode that we've ever done. One.
Yep.
And so there are some episodes that I did not enjoy because the editing was rough, but there are some that took a lot of editing but were very rewarding, like Run for the Red Noses, which is probably our best episode. I would agree with Ryan. However, my personal favorite is the most off the wall different episode we've ever done, which is when we did the Master Debaters episode of the TMIW presidential debate.
I enjoyed that one too. That was
because
a lot of fun.
It was the most off the wall, I think, episode we ever did, with the most simple concept, but the questions were fun, and I just enjoyed listening to Ryan and Joe argue in as fictional characters, as opposed to the fictional characters they play on this podcast.
About that episode. Was that How Fat is the Fattest Cat?
No, that was the one where Joe Biden and Donald Trump competed in the decathlon.
Okay, I must have completely missed.
No, the Master Debaters was the title of it.
Did I put that one on the list? I don't know if I did.
You must have just forgotten.
I must have skipped it. Well, I had completely wiped that one from my memory. That was a hard one to do. I was honestly stressed on that one because we decided to do no prep and we had to kind of go off the cuff, and it was a lot harder. And I really give Josh a lot of credit for being prepared to pivot as we needed to.
That one was good. I also really like on the Stone Cold Rock I Stand.
Yes.
Just because, I mean, like, I know Josh is another big wrestling fan, but like The Rock was my favorite growing up. And the fact that I tried to work all of his promos into a call to the altar as a youth pastor and then stood up in the back bedroom of my old house and screamed that call to the altar. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's worth listening to that, because Josh and I both do a call to the altar invitation like you get at the end of youth camp. Josh does one as Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I do one as The Rock, where we try to work in as many of their promo catchphrases as we can, and it just gets absolutely ridiculous.
I'm also just remembering around July 4th when we did the revamp on
War on Dave Coulier.
Yes, War on Dave Coulier, when we decided that America needs a new anthem. And we actually never did we ever say who won?
We did the next week.
It was Full House, right?
No, it was, or yes, it was Full House.
It was a Full House theme. That was a fun one. I enjoyed that one. So while we're on this subject, I don't want to say what was your least favorite episode, because that sounds like something that we're like not proud of. But I'm trying to think of a way to phrase that makes it sound like we still appreciate the episode, but maybe it just like didn't turn out. Maybe it was the one that we're bitter about.
Most disappointing episode?
Yeah, I'll start with mine. So that would be Heavily Seasoned. That is mainly because I won the debate, and then Joe decided to use a false reason to give me the not the win. To not give me the win.
It's all false. This was going to be my springboard of my question that you were going to say, as far as what is the debate you lost that you think you should have won?
Heavily Seasoned.
Well, I know that was for each of you. I would have to say, for me, honestly, the one that hurt the most was the Pizza Deep State.
Yeah.
Riding that Colonel Sanders in his private hotel with the hidden rooms and all that.
But we both came with bangers on that one.
We did. That one was that was always the one, because I'm also a big horror movie fan. So just losing that, I was like, oh no. That was the one that always kind of haunts me. I was looking to see if there's any other ones like that. I know Ryan's favorite is Teenage Mutant Ninja Tonsil Hockey, just because he gets to go back and relive all those memories of making out during movies.
I also lost that debate too. So
yeah, I was gonna say mine would have to be Croc's World Tour, where we did Most Punchable Song, because Cheerleader is definitely the most punchable song. And that one upset me quite a bit. Shout out to our friend Dakota for giving us all those questions, of which that one was one that came out of that. But I should have won it.
I have to say, this is a little bit random, but I was just looking back through the list. Tale as Old as True Crime was there's a little bit of a backstory here that I don't think we've ever shared. So
we have not.
This was pretty early on. I think it was like episode, what is that? 7-ish, maybe 8. And we wanted to try recording in the same room because we really wanted to like get the energy from each other. And, just that was how we originally wanted to do the show. So we go to Josh's house and we set up in different corners of this room and we record Was it 2 or just the 1?
We recorded 1 episode.
We recorded the entire episode because we thought it was going to work. And it didn't. It was terrible. You could not listen to it. It was literally...
It was unlistenable.
Unlistenable.
Well, we had all our mics are omnidirectional, so they pick up all ways around, which is great when you're at home by yourself. But if you put 3 of those mics in a room with 3 people who talk at the same time, it picks up a lot of sound it should.
Yeah, and omnidirectional is a word we did not know at that time. We have learned a lot about equipment since then. If you can't tell by the growth of our audio quality over the last year, but we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, so Josh starts editing it and texts us and literally says, there is no way I can salvage this. So we either had to drop this topic that I was so excited about, or
that I think Skylar gave us, right?
She did. It was a topic from Skylar, one of my favorite topics we've ever done, and honestly, a great episode. And we literally had to re-record the entire thing. So I'm really proud of that episode because it is very hard to record a comedy show twice and still try to be funny in it.
Well, see, here's the catch there, though, is it was funny both times, but the reason it worked is because it was completely different the second time around. And unfortunately, the lost one is the funniest one.
That was hard. That was really hard to pick a debate winner the second time and not just be like, I've already chose this. That was the hardest one for me to moderate. What was another hard one for you all to moderate? What was the hardest debate you all moderated? Mine was the Tell Zelda's True Crime because I'd do it twice and try to make it objective both times.
Mine was Our Own Prison.
I was just thinking about that. That Josh, that has to be the debate you looked forward to the least. Like you did not want to do that.
I did not want to do that one.
I tried to kill it.
Well. The episode turned out really well. Was not a hit with the listeners. Did not do the best download numbers, but
we have had some people that have listened who said they loved it and shared that episode with people.
That is true. I agree. It is a great episode. It just goes to show
that no matter what the topic, there's someone out there who's going to enjoy it. It may not be for the masses, but that every topic is going to find someone who likes it.
Now, before we move on from most disappointing, I do have to point out one episode that I did have high hopes for that I don't feel like fully lived up to its potential. And that is 40 minutes of Brian Littrell.
Yeah.
We set on that Backstreet Boys NSYNC topic because when Ryan came with me for the idea for this podcast initially and pitched it to me on my back deck. And one of the first topics I think we came up with was who would win in a game of 5-on-5 basketball, NSYNC or Backstreet Boys.
That one, and then
that was going to be the one.
Yeah, that one, and then our very first episode, or second episode with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were the 2 topics that this show was founded on. And I have to agree. I feel like that episode, it felt too important. Like maybe we got psyched ourselves out.
Yeah. And I think at that point, we hadn't fully realized that the more ridiculous we went with the topic, the better. And that sometimes the topic doesn't matter. It's just the fun we had along the way. And so that was the one where I was like, this is the one. This is going to be great. This is going to be the peak of the form. And it was not. So that's the only one that I have to say was a disappointment. Now, aside from that, we did get a couple questions here from some folks that are close to the show that I did want to share. We put out a little call on our Instagram page to ask for these. And so I wanted to just kind of slot these in here and see if we could get some answers on these. The first one came from our friend Chelsea. Chelsea has been one of our biggest fans. She's really helped us out. She shared the show. She talks to us all the time, which we absolutely love when people reach out to us.
Let me tell the Chelsea story real quick before we move on.
Go ahead.
So thank you, Chelsea, for sending this question in. I also need to tell you, please go listen to last week's This Is My Bourbon podcast because I gave you a specific shout out because whether you know it or not, you are really important to our show because you were one of the first people that sort of reached out and continued to interact with us. So this is a specific shout out to Chelsea. You know who you are. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sending in a question.
Yes. So she asked us, have y'all ever thought of topics at the most inappropriate time? And if so, when was it? Now, I've got an answer to this that has to do with something I already brought up, which is the Christmas song sex playlist.
There it is. I thought this might be it.
Because it came to me when Erica and I were out shopping for Christmas gifts.
I'm so glad you said out shopping.
And there's some Christmas music playing on the radio. And she initially brought up the idea, but we spent the rest of our day Christmas shopping, just talking about songs that people would have sex to during Christmas time and some of the euphemisms that could be used to go along with those songs. And so I just feel like being at the mall around people is not the best place to be thinking about that. The cereal freak one, just to get that out of the way, because I'm sure everybody's wondering about that. I thought about at work. So, I was working on like an Excel spreadsheet. Your mind starts to drift and it comes up.
My ideas generally come to me when I'm in the car. Like I'll be driving around like New Circle Road, which is a main little like freeway here in Lexington. And they just hit me all of a sudden. Like I'll see a car of a certain kind and something will pop in my head. And then like how I build mine is I get one detail and then I'm like, how can I twist this one detail to make it ridiculous?
So the being in a car and seeing other cars is the reason you pitch so many home improvement related topics.
Yeah. Well, no, hey, I just want to point out, I think I'm 3-3 when I mention home improvement.
You are. And unfortunately for you, you mentioned it today and there's no winner. So you're streaking.
I'm not debating.
I have to say, we rag on Joe a lot. It's just kind of the character that he has fallen into in this show. But I
think calling it a character is generous,
but I will say one of the reasons that we shoot so many of Joe's down is because Joe suggests more topics than me and Josh combined.
Yes.
So he also probably has the most accepted episode titles as well, because he will swing at everything.
Usually, I also, as far as titles, I usually say the stupidest things in the episode which stick. So
that too.
Now
that's just a quick shout out to Joseph Robinson and his ability to find the strangeness in our world.
Now, another question we got came from our old pal Perry, who Ryan just mentioned that we were on Timbip last week. This is my bourbon podcast, so you can go and check that out and listen to us there.
And this month, subscribe to his Patreon, because we were on his Patreon and it gets crazy.
Hold on.
Yeah, okay.
We need to talk about this briefly.
Before we go further, let's talk about what if we did. Okay, so we did uncensored stories on his Patreon, but we're only willing to tell them behind a paywall because some of them are. Okay,
Ribbled.
The one I told it's rough. It's rough, and I'm not comfortable telling that for the masses to hear. But if you are willing to pay like a Patreon fee to get some behind the scenes stories with us like that, I think we'd be willing to tell them. Not because we're getting our money. We want to tell these stories.
But we also like our jobs.
Yes, I don't think it's worth putting out for the general public because they are,
And Joe bring this up. It's a good point. We have discussed this option before. I think what we might do is bring this back around at the end, because I want to talk about the network a little bit later.
Yes.
So we'll come back around to that.
But yeah, anyways, what they're getting at is if you go join this My Bourbon Podcast Patreon, $5 a month, you can hear us talking about all sorts of crazy stories. One of us maybe even drops a little word we won't even say on this podcast. I won't tell you which one it was. I'm not saying.
I can't remember.
And
I don't even know. I said a lot of words. I really don't even know what we're referring to.
Yeah, Perry turned the mics on. We just started talking. He recorded it, and it's out there, so go listen to it. Now, Perry sent us a question for this podcast, and he asked, has your trajectory of what you want the podcast to be changed since day one? I will give that to Ryan first, since he was the initial conceiver of Tell Me I'm Wrong.
So I am a huge podcast fan. I listen to a lot of different kinds of podcasts. I feel like there are definitely people who kind of get in their one genre and then stick. I have really hit everything across the board, from nerdy stuff to like educational stuff to comedy. I mostly listen to comedy now just because that's what we do.
That's why you started this education podcast that we're on.
Yeah, and obviously this educational podcast, this Tell Me I'm Wrong. But when I when we actually started the show, I honestly think I'm still of the same mind. Me and Josh had several conversations before we actually like decided to go for it, where we did some research. We really felt like what we were offering was different than what was out there. There are debate podcasts, there are comedy podcasts, there are even comedy debate podcasts out there, but
including one that came at us on Twitter, and you know who you are.
And we won't go over that, but they for sure don't listen. But it just felt like we had something different, and I still feel that way to this day. We have seen growth. It's honestly, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, it's probably not been what I wanted it to be. Like, I kind of thought that we would get some momentum and then kind of be able to build a little bit more. But I think that the main thing with podcasting is staying consistent. But I still think that we have a really cool show, and I like what we're doing. And I think if we continue to stick with it, that we've got places that we can go.
I agree. And I think too, the thing about the show is we've been oddly consistent, aside from our audio not sounding like absolute shit anymore. Well, sometimes, but most of the time sounding really good. Other than that, the show's been pretty consistent about the type of content and the way it feels from the beginning. And we just kind of hit the ground running. And I don't think that has changed. We've obviously changed a few things. We don't do quite as many epic cinematic bits at the end of episodes, just because Josh needs to live his life. And we don't do crazy mod office bits near as often, with the exception of a recent
might be
episode.
Coming back if we don't get ads.
Hey, yeah, if we don't get ads, we'll start doing them again. That's a threat. So,
yeah, give us money or those are coming back.
I know we Helix even. I know I said some bad things about you a couple weeks ago, but feel free to come join us. Manscaped.
Yeah,
I don't care. We'll talk about it.
We'll take any.
We'll take any of them.
We will accept any money.
But, there's been some things that have come and gone and changed, but I think for the most part, it's remained consistent. And I think that's been a strength of the show.
I think I can speak for both the guys when they say we'll accept money. This is not us like trying to like pad our wallets and get rich. Like the main focus we want to get better equipment so we could produce better podcast. That's like our goal. It's not, I believe me, like I had this conversation with the guys. I would love this podcast to take off and become huge, but I'm not going to quit my job to be a full-time podcaster. Like I have no desire to do that. I like health insurance and a job.
Yeah, unfortunately, the TMIW healthcare plan is not great.
It's not great. The deductible is like $15,000, and it's going to take me a while to hit that. So, but I would love to for us to have money where we could do live shows and all that stuff we're going to talk about later. But so when we say like we're looking for advertisers, that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to improve. So I don't want to think we're just trying to like pay us because we want to get paid. That's not what I'm saying. If the Patreon money ever happened,
that's what I'm doing. I don't know about you all.
That's actually
if Patreon
a really
ever
good point,
kicked off, it would be for us to like Perry had wonderful equipment that we all plugged into one machine. It recorded everything. It synced us all up, and we were just like, that is so nice. We tried to record one time and vowed to never do it again with each other unless things drastically changed. Well, as you heard earlier, I am a dad. I am a husband. I just bought a house. Ryan's about to become a dad. Josh is about to get married. Buying audio equipment isn't like at the top of our list, I don't think. At least for me, like I don't just go out and randomly buy microphones. Just, hey, that's a nice looking mic. I'm going to buy it. It's not how it works. So that's our goal with that. As far as trajectory, once again, I am week to week. I'll be straight up honest with you all.
Joe might not be here next week.
No, not that. Like, I'm not saying like I always will be here if you guys do it, but it's like life happens. Like stuff happens. Things change for us. Like I didn't have any goals. Like I think all of us, is safe to say, we really look up to the Adventure Zone, to my brother, and me, the McElroys. That's a family group that they podcast. That's what they do, and they're really good at what they do. But that's all they do. And you have a lot of time and money to devote to something, you become really good at it. But do we have the exponential growth they have? Hell no. I mean, they have like what, millions of downloads on day one. But I want to grow. Obviously, I want to get better in everything in life I do. We want to grow our show, but like, I'm also realistic in knowing like there's 1,000 of us. So we have to just keep setting ourselves apart. And that's the thing is like, I want the listeners to know, like, we are trying to get better. We are trying to improve. We want to do better shows for you every time. So when I say I'm week to week, I just mean like every week I'm thinking, what can we do? How can we improve? What can we change? Who can we bring on? And that's the other thing. If you have guests you want us to bring on, let us know. Like we pick guests based on like, a lot of times it's based on shows. Like when we had Tom Hart on, it was for basketball coaches in the SEC. That's what he covers. When we had Elliot on, that was for a Broadway musical, which I forgot to mention earlier. That was by far a fun episode. The Con Air versus Jurassic Park off-Broadway really musical was hysterical. If you like any kind of musical, you will love that. Probably not, but it's really funny. But, we bring people on, but there's sometimes like there's guests that like we have our friend Matt, we talked about bringing on. I don't care what subject we bring him on for. He will be great at it. Mm-hmm. So if you all have guests, someone you think would be a good act for the show, not everyone will fit, but we'll try. Like we like interacting with people. It's fun to do that. I see these guys every week. Sometimes it's nice to see a new face, a new sound, a new voice. So as usual, I'm long-winded and I go too long, but to bring all that together, like trajectory of the show, I just want to keep having fun. I think if we're having fun, everyone's having fun. Mm-hmm. That's my main goal. I want to get better every week. I want to have fun. And we want to do things that is more interactive with you all if you're willing to do that. Like you all may not care to see us, and that's okay too. I mean, I'm not nothing nice to look at, but we want to do things. We want to get involved. We want to meet you all more. And so that's my trajectory. I don't know how to end it, so I'm going to leave it there.
So I think what Joe said is actually a really good transition to kind of the future of the show. We all are kind of on the same page about the trajectory. Like our goals haven't really, we started the show to have fun. We're still having fun. So I feel like we're succeeding at that. But to be honest, we do have some goals for some growth. We've mentioned live shows before. That's probably still way in the future. We don't really see that happening anytime soon. But as Joe has talked about, and as we have actually mentioned on Perry's show a couple times, we would really like to upgrade our equipment. And honestly, we'd really like to, like as Joe so eloquently talked about, get some advertisers just so we can invest in the show. I don't know that we ever said that before, so I appreciate Joe saying that, because we would only use the advertising money to make the show better. That's and so that kind of leads me to what we brought up.
Well, Ryan, and PS5s.
Right. Yeah. The PS5. And then also I'm having a daughter, so that will help too. But
diapers.
Yeah. But seriously, we have been talking with Perry for a long time, for almost the entirety of the show. Basically, as soon as we started, he was on board. Perry has been podcasting for a long time and knows a lot of people and is well established. And he is basically really close to starting a podcasting network. This is not something that has, really taken off yet, but the plans are getting more and more solid. And so we want you guys to just be aware that is something that we are hoping to have happen soon. And that is going to be how we can improve the show. I think that is really my main goal for this year, is to do what we can to help Perry get the network off the ground. And we're definitely going to be, a big part of that network. And that is really honestly going to be the direction that growth will happen, is as a network, when we can have other shows that we can bring on our show and really support each other and share audiences and things like that.
And I think it's going to be something that's going to be really cool for our listeners, and also just, for us. I think it'll be a blast to have a bigger community around us to make the show and to support us. And I think that's going to be really neat. And I think it'll also stretch us creatively, because that's one thing I really would like to do. And I know I'm the one that edits it, so I'm just making more work for myself. But my favorite episodes that we have done have been the ones that had a heavy theme, like the presidential debate one or Run for the Red Noses, where I get to be a little bit creative and really dig in. I'm not saying we're going to do that, all the time, but just stuff like that, where we experiment with the form that this show has taken. We have like I said, a very consistent kind of formula to how we do an episode. But when we get outside of that, I think we make some magic. And so, I want to just have more opportunity to do stuff like that, or to completely experiment with the form that our show takes, and how we do debates or like who's debating or what we're debating. We've had conversations about that I think are really cool. So I think in this next 50 episodes, we'll experiment a little bit and maybe see what works and what doesn't. And I'm excited to do that because I think that's some of the most fun stuff that we do is when we get a little outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah, I agree with all that. One thing we haven't brought up yet is we've had people who sponsored the show and helped the show out. We had people like Southern Draw Creations who are still around. They're a great couple. We know they're good friends of Rachel and I's, and they have the best glassware. I have glassware. I believe Josh has glassware.
I have glassware from them.
I think Ryan does too. Like, it's amazing stuff, and they make it in their home. Like, you can't get more local than that. They don't send it out. Like, I've literally seen pictures of where they etch all these glassware. You have My Kentucky Tea. My wife gets those every month still. She loves getting those shirts. And then like Device Pit Stop, like you talking about supporting the show. We're literally recording on a device that Device Pit Stop gave to us as part of the sponsorship. Like I use my wife's computer from 2012 when we first started out. And these guys can attest. There's a lot of times I just struggled. Like it couldn't handle Zoom. Zoom takes a lot of bandwidth. If you all people who don't work from home, like it takes a lot of juice for computers to run Zoom.
And Joe's computer back then was like literally running on a hamster wheel.
Basically, like I had to like just keep turning a crank wheel on the side of my desk to keep it running, the motherboard to spin and everything else.
You had to elbow it like Fonzie
so,
in a jukebox.
One episode, I literally couldn't get apps to open for almost an hour. And the guys patiently sat on the Zoom call waiting for me to catch up. But like it was super frustrating was that for me. And like, but Device Pit Stop was willing to come along and help us out. And like, I can't thank them enough for that. Like they really helped the show. And that's the kind of stuff we're looking to do. We want to improve stuff we have, and like whether that's software, hardware, whatever. And just moving forward, like I love people. I love to interact with people. I love to love on people. I just look to interact and meet you all. Like, I think it'd be really cool. Like we talked about doing a live show. We don't even have to do a live show. I think it'd be cool to do a meetup if you're local, and we'll just meet at a local coffee house or KS bar or something like that, where we're saying, hey, we're going to be here with this room from 6 to 8 p.m. on Thursday night. It'd be cool to just see if anybody wants to show up and say hi, like put a face to a name. Like, I think that'd be great. I want more interaction from you all. I want ways to, maybe we'll have a contest and someone can, a listener can come on the show with us one day for a couple minutes, something like that. This is all stuff I've thought of, but my whole point for the future and going forward is involving you guys, our listeners. Like I talk to these idiots every week. Like it'd be cool to like get to know you more and like hear what you want to hear on the show. Cause ultimately we're doing it for us. By the time it gets to you, Josh has listened to it 45 times. We've listened to it 2 or 3 times. Like, we know the show.
Oh, I don't listen to it while I edit it.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. That actually fills some holes in. But
I just look at the waveforms and take my best guess.
But yeah, I mean, like to me, that's the best thing we can do. And ultimately, that's the growth that I want. I'd rather have a really strong, smaller fan base than have a bunch of people who occasionally listen. So
agreed.
So just I wanted to mention one more thing about the network. Having something like that would also create the opportunity for us to do more things. Like Joe was talking about, like a meetup for everybody in the network would be really cool. And also it might create the opportunity for us to make some more make more content. Like if we have some more, support and some more, just resources really. I would, I have a couple ideas for some shows. Josh, I know, has a couple more ideas for shows. And so we would love to create this into something a little bit more than, the hobby that it is right now. Not to make money, but just because I love podcasting and it's something I really enjoy having conversations with people about. So like, maybe there's a 10-minute show that we could start doing. I mean, I've already talked to a couple people about doing some more shows if we have the bandwidth, but right now, like we said, we are full-time family people and also full-time workers, and this is just a hobby that we enjoy doing.
I want to do a show that reviews horror movies. I don't know who I would do it with, and I don't know if anybody would listen, but like to me, it'd be cool. Well, Josh would apparently want to do it. I don't know if he'd want to take on another podcast. So, but
oh no, I don't want to do that. But
I'm saying, even if we did it even if I did it as a bi-weekly, but like, how cool would it be to take a horror movie from like 1983 that very few have heard of? We watch and go through it, and there's a video on YouTube I watch of that. It's called Dead Meat. He's awesome. Check him out if you like horror movies. But he like just goes through these horror movies I've never even heard of, And I've went back and watched some of them because they're awesome. They're terrible, but they're awesome.
And some of this is just, us kind of dreaming while we're on the show. But like, we'll always come back to this show, our weekly, tell me I'm wrong, because it's, where we started and everything. So like, don't feel like we're going to like stray away from this show.
We're not going anywhere.
Because we have discovered that the topics, there's always going to be something we can talk about. Although it's getting harder.
I don't think it's getting harder. I think the problem is we've had some really good shows that are just amazing, and we try to match that, and that's sometimes impossible to do that because we don't even know they're going to be amazing going into them.
Yeah, most of the ones that end up being really good are hard to predict.
A lot of those we've questioned if they'll work.
But we always somehow pull it off, and that's all that matters.
So before we move forward, can I thank some people?
Absolutely.
Well, I'd like to thank our guest, Elliot Maddox. He came on for the Broadway show. He's a friend of Ryan.
Our very first guest. He's a friend of Ryan. He was amazing. He listened to me ramble about the movie Con Air and how it'd be great to have Nick Cage singing with LeAnn Rimes. So anyone who's willing to do that deserves at least a thank you. Bo has been on. Was Bo twice?
Twice. Yeah.
Bo's been on twice. He's been on the most, and Bo has done 2 drafts. I don't know if we'll get him on for another draft. We'll see. I saw Bo for the first time last week in almost 2 years, and he told me as soon as I saw him, he wanted to come back on the podcast.
We love having Bo on. He could easily come on and just be a regular co-host.
And then Perry, we've had Perry on one time, and I think we've been on his show 4 times.
Yeah, we need to get Perry back on. I think we were on
his show twice, and then we've also done some other things with him.
Yeah, we did a live stream with him, but that's part of his recording. Like, I count that as part of his thing. And it's just fun. Like, if you are not a bourbon aficionado, listen to This Is My Bourbon Pod. I am not. I have 2, maybe 3 bottles. We talked about this on last week's episode. I buy what's on sale, or if Perry recommends it and it's not ridiculously expensive. I mean, that's the God's honest truth. Like, I am not some big bourbonite who goes and
none of us are. None of the three of us
Sunday
are.
afternoon, we went on the 3 of us actually went together on a bourbon tour to celebrate Ryan having a baby, and we went to Barrel House, and that's a new place where they used to do James E. Pepper. It was awesome. They had literally 2 rooms in this entire distillery. And
it was basically these 2 dudes in 2 garages.
That he's not kidding.
Just distilling bourbon.
And I learned more there than I feel like I have on any other tour. But like, that's my limit. That's my extent
and
of my
drink some
knowledge.
moonshine that I am still feeling in my nose.
Yeah, it was
just FYI.
It was rough. But Perry makes bourbon so relatable to everyone. And you are going to learn something and to gain something from listening to Perry's show. Not just because he invites us idiots on there. And I don't know why he does, because we talked the entire time. We talked about bourbon for 3 minutes last time.
Well, I do want to say something about Perry. As Joe said, go listen to his show. It's honestly just people. Usually, most episodes are just him and Swan, or him and whoever's on,
his wife,
just hanging out and talking. It's great. But second, Perry has been our biggest non-Mama Ballard supporter, and has been honestly huge to us continuing with the show, and been a huge encouragement to us. So that is another reason that we really want to do the network and want to be a co-conspirator with him, because he's been such an encouragement and a huge kind of a pod father to us.
Yeah, and the last person who came on our show was Tom Hart. I mean, I doubt he's listening. If he does, I actually messaged him not too long ago thanking him for coming on again, and told him we'd love to have him on again. Like, he was great. He was someone I literally slid into his DMs. He never had to answer me. He was super cool about it. Like, he was just like, yeah, sure, I'd love to come on. And these guys will vouch. Like, we had him on recording for 15, 20 minutes. The dude stayed on and talked to us for almost a half hour, like, total time, just talking about basketball and football and bull crapping with us. And it was like he knew us, like we were old college buddies just hanging out. Like, he was just the most super down-to-earth guy. So go find him on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Follow him, because he is just legitimately cool. And then just once again, please go check out My Kentucky Tea, Southern Draw Creations, and Device Pit Stop. They supported the show. They are amazing companies. They're all local, and I just can't recommend all those guys enough.
And while we're thanking people, I think we should all thank our wives and or fiancés and or girlfriends, because not only do they allow us to have the time to do this, but also the embarrassment that we bring to them by the things that we say and do.
Our families.
The first episode my wife was ever on, I referred to her as my current wife. Well, she's my only wife. I don't know why I thought that was a good thing to say. But
and it's now our longest running joke.
Yeah. But yeah, they're great.
That and Ryan making out in movie theaters, but that's not a joke.
Good
that's
try to swerve.
True.
That's been a nice try.
I think that was our 5th episode, so that would be the oldest.
At least from my perspective, Eric has been very supportive. She's come up with topics for the show.
She has. She's only broken up with you like 3 or 4 times.
Only 3 or 4 times
since the start of the show.
I've only broken up with her twice on air. So a very happy, stable relationship. Glad she's going to be my wife, et cetera, et cetera. But
I need to actually get in here and say thank you to my wife, Leah. She has been super supportive. Like you guys said, like we have to make the time to do this, and they are always willing to let us do this, and they know how much we enjoy it and how much life it brings to us, especially during the last year that has been so terrible. Like this has been such a great outlet, and now I'm excited for the next. I kind of consider we're walking into the next era of this show,
season 2.
And maybe we start.
Man,
we're season 2.
We're on those Power Rangers seasons.
Yeah, 50 episodes. No, I mean, like my wife, she's been awesome. Like when I told her we wanted to do this, she never questioned it. She was always like, "Yeah, sure. If that's what you want to do, go for it." She did say, "If we're buying that microphone, you better use it." But
and boy, did we use it!
Oh, we used it a lot. I ended up having to buy a second one, and now I own 2 mics. But she's been great. She takes care of our daughter every week when we do this. Like it takes us, maybe 2 hours a week to do this, to record and everything else. And she's never questioned it. She's always been great, and she's the rock of our family. And we're just very appreciative of her. Me and Sloan wouldn't survive without her. But yeah, I mean, and she's also came on our show at the drop of a hat to make a decision on a debate that we didn't really prep her on.
Always on call. Always on call.
Yes.
And, before we get done, I'm just going to thank the other 2 gentlemen on the podcast with me, because it has been a blast. And in a year that should have been completely shitty, it was only slightly shitty because we got to make a fun show and do something fun with our friends when we all had to stay in our houses. And so it has been a blast. And so I thank you all for doing this with me and making this happen.
Yeah, thanks, fellas.
I'll say thank you to Josh for really being the reason that we are able to do this. I mean, Joe will echo this as well. He was really the guy who got us going technically and the website going and everything, and then also produces the show. And so
Josh deserves a hell of a shout out, because Ryan and I just record this. We do some clerical work stuff in our Gmail and all that, and our Google Drive.
They keep the books.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Josh edits the podcast. Josh creates all the graphics. Josh does some of the social media posts. He runs our website, runs our store, which we do have a store, so go buy merch. It's awesome. He does all that. So, I mean, Josh, thank you. Like, we would literally not function without you. And also, I feel like we're remiss if we don't thank Mama Ballard. She shares every social media post we ever do. So thank you, Mama Ballard. You are amazing.
She's the #1 fan forever.
Yes, we'll get you a shirt.
We need a Mama Ballard shirt.
I'll work on that one for Mother's Day special.
It's one of a kind.
Just for her. TMIW mom.
We did miss the boat on a Mother's Day episode.
Well, we had to brag on ourselves. We couldn't brag on the moms. Right. What are you talking about, Joe?
It's so funny because last week Barry on his podcast said I had struggled taking compliments and talking about myself, and we just spent an hour talking about ourselves.
Yeah, we don't have that problem at all.
No, we don't.
One more thank you.
Is it to Isle of 8?
Okay, 2 more thank
First
yous.
off, like, thank God. God is in his chilies.
But I want to thank God. No, definitely not that. I want to thank the listeners, because there are people that listen to this show. We have it on recorded fact. They do listen. So
at least download.
Thank you for. Yeah, well, at least download. That's all we care about. Thank you for listening. I also want to thank Isle of 8 from day one.
That banging
we
song.
have had our theme song,
banging,
and it's never going away. I elevate for 5 ever.
Well, if we've seen anything in 2020 in 2021, it is that theme songs for podcasts can go away.
Yes.
And as long as I elevate doesn't do some crazy shit, I think we'll be fine.
In theory, I elevate already went away.
That's true. We're safe. They're not even a band anymore.
Yeah, but the canned goods are always waiting to bring any good person down. So just it's always
Man, that was
possible.
a deep cut.
You have to listen to Bam for that.
If we have to change our banger of a song because we end up being known for having the song of Beanie Weenie Dad or something.
If we change it, I am going to personally just campaign to get OMI's Cheerleader as our theme song.
Yep,
Please don't.
That's the right direction we'll go.
We'll do that, or
don't.
we'll do Nickelback.
Okay. You secure the rights for either of those, and we will play them on this show, Joe.
Don't tip me.
Well, I've enjoyed just getting to shoot the shit for the last hour and talk about the show we've made and about where we're going. And I'm excited for the next 50. And we will do this again at 100 and see, how many listeners we've lost since this one. And then we'll take account
We'll record it from our flying airship on the way to Mars because the Earth has crumbled.
Man, we are
finally succumbed.
Technology is really advancing in a year, like rapidly advancing in a year.
Oh, you think we're going to hit 100 in a year?
We hit 50 in 54 weeks. 52
Listen,
weeks.
if they could get a
But we'll
vaccine
see
done,
we'll see
if they
if
could
that
get a vaccine done
continues.
within a year, then flying cars are only around the corner. So we will be taken off to Mars and whatnot by then. But in the meantime, thank you all once again.
I do have one question for the fans, and this is something I would like for you to reach out to us.
Hold on, it is fitting that I try to wrap this up, and Joe's always got one more thought. He's always got one more thought.
I've got two.
And I appreciate that about Joe. Okay, 2 more thoughts, Joe. What are
First
your 2 more
one
thoughts?
is make sure you are following us on our social medias: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that at TMIWPod. You can also visit the website, TMIWPod.com. You can find our merch store there, our email list, everything you want. The second thing is, I don't know about you all, but I've really enjoyed the show where we just talk. I know we had the What's Your Deal where we told stories. As listeners, would you all like an occasional episode where we don't really debate, but we just get on and talk about a subject or tell stories? Would you like more of that? Or do you like just the straight up debates? Like, that's questions we've asked ourselves that it's hard for us to answer because we know it really depends on what you all want to listen to. So,
and if so, would you pay for it?
Yeah, or if not, even if you wouldn't, like if you would just like maybe once a month or once every 2 months or whatever, have a show where we just do something similar, where we talk, not like thanking people and ourselves, but like we just talk about a subject or tell stories or
just hang out.
Yeah, just hang out. Like, or would you be interested in live chats? Like if we did a live chat once a month where we got online and you can log online with us and we talked and answered your questions and you all talked to us and we talked to you. If that's something you're interested in, reach out to us, DM us, tag us on Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Let us know, because that's something we're interested in doing, but only if you're going to be there to do it with us. We don't want to do it just the 3 of us because that's kind of lame. So that was my last thought. Josh, since you were rude about it, I feel like that was a legitimate thought.
It's okay. I have 2 more thoughts. If anybody knows, there's so many podcasts that quit after like 10 episodes. If anybody bought some real nice equipment and then decided they didn't like podcasting, wants to get rid of it, call us. And second, we thanked Dial of 8, but you know who I realized we have never thanked because you all don't even know their name? That is Mr. David Hillowitz, who created the instrumental track Paralytic Insomnia, which plays at the end of darn near every episode of this podcast, and we have never said one word about.
Except for in the notes. Idea. Would never, ever.
Never heard of it.
David makes a lot of really cool, free Creative Commons
license
music
free
for people to use on podcasts and movies and TV shows.
We definitely should have been thanking him.
And he doesn't ask for it other than in the notes, and we've been doing that. But I realized we've never mentioned him on here, and so I just wanted to say thank you to David Hillowitz because I think when we finished recording the first 2 episodes, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if we did like a Bachelor giving away the rose kind of deal to pick our winner. And I went and found that music and we've used the same one ever since. So David, thank you, wherever you are.
All right. Well, I think we have bloviated enough for this week. We're going to be back next week with a debate. So unless, all hell breaks loose and somebody's sick again or something. But we hope to be back next week with another debate. And that's going to be it. Later, losers.
See ya.
And I want to thank you for giving us the best podcast of our lives.